There are certain parts of the world, at certain times in history, that just seem to be conveyor belts of footballing par excellence. In the 1960s, that seemed to be the Brazilian cities of Rio and Sao Paulo. A decade before that, there was a remarkable amount of talent emanating out of the Hungarian capital of Budapest. Head back another 10 years, and the working-class mining towns in the northeast and northwest of England appeared to be the global hotbeds of talent. Or how about the Lisbon Lions of Celtic, who, in 1967, became the first British team to lift the European Cup, defeating the might of Inter Milan with a starting 11 ball entirely within a 30-mile radius of Celtic Park. It's a strange phenomenon, some of which can be explained by social circumstances, economics and culture, but some of which just seems to involve a certain amount of magic being in the air at a particular time. Right now, that place is Paris, or rather Greater Paris, which is officially known as the Île-de-France. One of 18 regions in France, Île-de-France only accounts for 2% of mainland France's total landmass, but it is by far the most densely populated and economically active region in the entire country. And indeed, it is among the most densely populated and economically important regions in all of Europe. Whilst there are a number of great footballers from within Paris's city walls, the majority of the talent we have seen emerge out of the region in recent years has actually been from the suburbs, or banlieues, as they are known in France. The Paris metropolitan area is often described as having rings of increasingly poorer communities the further you get from the city centre. And whilst that is a bit simplistic, Versailles is, after all, a suburb of Paris, it is a fairly reasonable broad brush. Football is immensely popular, particularly within Paris's working-class banlieues, and quite why is a subject I'd be more than happy to explore in a future video should the interest exist. So feel free to let me know if you'd enjoy a video of that nature in the comments. But today's video is purely a look at just how good of a starting 11 the Greater Paris region, or the Île-de-France, could actually name. And at the end, I'll ask you where you think this 11 would rank in the FIFA World Rankings if it were an independent nation. Well, that is a question for all of you later on, but without further ado, because he was born in Ghana, here is my Greater Paris / Île-de-France 11. Goalkeeper: Alphonse Areola. Getting us off to a strong start, or I think so at least, I've been impressed by Alphonse Areola at Fulham this season. The Frenchman was always likely to be kept busy guarding Fulham's goal this season, and so it has proved. But I think Scott Parker's men could have been relegated much earlier with a less capable pair of hands between the sticks. Fulham actually conceded fewer goals than the likes of Crystal Palace and Leeds United this season, and the same number as Burnley and Wolves. So Alphonse Areola can return to Paris this summer with his head held high. The 28-year-old is actually of both Filipino and Lebanese origin, but he was born in the French capital, and he has won 3 caps for France, and PSG are the only club that he has ever been permanently contracted to. Right back: Nordi Mukiele. There's been a lot of talk about Diet Upamecano over the last couple of years, and understandably so, and he is obviously set to join Bayern Munich in the summer for €42.5 million. However, whenever I have seen RB Leipzig this season, and indeed even stretching back into last season, I must admit to having been just as impressed by his compatriot and defensive comrade in East Germany's boomtown. A year older than Upamecano, Mukiele is capable of playing at right back or centre back, and it is at right back that he has both played most frequently this season and where he starts in this 11. Quick, alert, and very comfortable on the ball, Mukiele was born in the commune of Montreuil, around 4 miles east of the centre of Paris. Montreuil is renowned for its large Malian immigrant or descended population, but Mukiele's parents are actually Congolese. Centre-back: Jules Koundé. I have to be careful when talking about Jules Koundé these days that this channel doesn't just become a Jules Koundé propaganda machine, since I have not received any tacit payments from either him or his agent to facilitate that degree of advocacy. With that being said, it is not a very well-kept secret among regular viewers of this channel that I'm a big fan of Jules Koundé. I must admit, I didn't see all that much of him during his time at Bordeaux, but since signing for Sevilla in 2019, he has been absolutely outstanding. Still aged only 22, Koundé might not be the tallest, but I think he is undoubtedly among the most talented and valuable centre-backs in all of world football. He was born in the city of Paris proper to parents of Beninese descent, and the fact that he hasn't yet won a senior cap for Les Bleus tells you all that you need to know about the depth available to Didier Deschamps at the heart of his defence. Centre-back, Ferland Mendy. Subscribers to this channel will know that I like my fantasy 11s to be functional and not stupid. None of this Yaya Toure, Dream 11 nonsense, and that I don't tend to pick players out of position. Believe me when I say that there was a plethora of options in every single position, and I have the 7-man bench and honourable mentions later on to prove it. But I have picked 1 or 2 players out of position in this 11 because I believe it is for the good of the team. Ferland Mendy is one of them, naturally a left-back, but starting on the left side of centre-back in our Île-de-France born starting 11. That is because, well, partly it was due to the fact that there were a couple of left-backs that I felt I couldn't leave out, but also because Ferland Mendy can play at centre-back. And I think he'd do a fine job there in this 11, and I believe he has even played maybe 2 or 3 games there this season. If I were being particularly scrupulous, which I always am, I might point out that my only defender above 6 foot is my right back, but honestly, I don't see that being all that big of an issue. And if it is, then there's a very experienced 6'3" centre-back waiting in the wings on the bench. Ferland Mendy was born in Merlon-en-Yvelines, a Parisian commune of just 9,000 inhabitants, but one with a remarkable sporting pedigree. He began his career with Le Havre before moves to Lyon and Real Madrid, and he has now won 7 caps for France's senior team. Fun fact, Ferland Mendy is of no relation to Benjamin Mendy, though Benjamin Mendy was also born in the suburbs of Paris, but he is the cousin of Chelsea goalkeeper Edouard Mendy, though Edouard Mendy wasn't born in the suburbs of Paris. Left back, Raphael Guerreiro. As we come to left back, hopefully you can start to understand my decision to deputise Ferland Mendy at centre back. And I don't think it is any exaggeration to say that there are 4 Parisian-born left backs who would all start for all but maybe 4 or 5 national teams on the planet, which is really pretty extraordinary when you think about it. Raphael Guerreiro is arguably the pick of the bunch, having been outstanding for Borussia Dortmund for the last couple of seasons. Our first non-French international, but not our last, Guerreiro was born in the commune of Le Blanc-Mesnil, around 8 miles northeast of the centre of Paris, to a Portuguese father and a French mother. He chose to represent the nation of his father, and he has since won 45 caps for Portugal, aged 27. Defensive midfield, Angolo Kante. A man who is in fine form right now, Angolo Kante has had a bit of a stop-start couple of seasons in truth, but when he's at it, there is perhaps no finer player in his position in all of world football. Born in Paris to Malian parents, Kante was raised in the city's western suburbs, but he began his career 3 hours north of the French capital in Boulogne-sur-Mer, which is actually closer to London than it is to Paris. The diminutive and tireless midfield workhorse arrived in the Premier League in 2015, winning Premier League titles in each of his first 2 seasons in English football, but with 2 different clubs. Kante didn't win his first caps for France until a few days before his 25th birthday, but he is now a World Cup winner with 45 caps to his name. Central midfield, Paul Pogba. Speaking of World Cup winners, Paul Pogba is a couple of years younger than N'Golo Kante, but he has already won a whopping 78 caps for France. Highly regarded from a very young age, Pogba took the somewhat controversial decision to leave Manchester United in a move to Juventus at the age of only 19, but that decision proved to be pivotal to his development. If anything, the more questionable decision with hindsight that Pogba made was to return to Old Trafford, but the Frenchman's recent form under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has been among his best in the Premier League. A fantastic dribbler and passer of the ball, Pogba has the quick feet of a diminutive number 10, twinned with the physique of a box-to-box player. He was born in the commune of Lagny-sur-Marne, around 60 miles east of the centre of Paris. Central midfield, Tanguy Ndombele. There are plenty of Parisian central midfielders, who I will of course come to with my substitutes and honourable mentions in just a moment, but subscribers to this channel will be well aware of my fondness for Tanguy Ndombele. It would be fair to say that Ndombele's first season at Tottenham was a bit of a mixed bag, and whilst he has been much improved this season, I still don't think we've come anywhere close to seeing the best of the Frenchman. A bit languid or even lethargic at times, Ndombele has magnificent feet, he can breeze past opponents, and he can play the ball through the eye of a needle with real accuracy at his best. I was roundly mocked for saying that he was a better signing for between £55 to £63 million than Naby Keita was for £52.75 million on this channel, but I still think that time will prove favourable towards that prediction, if it hasn't already. Ndombele was born in the commune of Longjumeau, around 50 miles directly south of the Eiffel Tower, which was famously the location of Vladimir Lenin's Longjumeau Party School in the early 20th century. 18 students attended the school from across the Russian Empire, where they were lectured by the revolutionary Bolshevik, among many others. The Longjumeau Party School no longer exists, and Ndombele wasn't educated there, and to the best of my knowledge, he harbours no revolutionary sentiments whatsoever, though, naturally, I've no way of knowing for sure. Right wing, Riyad Mahrez. Our second non-French international, joining Raphael Guerreiro, Riyad Mahrez represents the Algerian national team, along with a number of other French-born footballers, and he has won 62 caps for the Desert Foxes to date. Mahrez won his first caps for the Desert Foxes whilst he was playing for the slightly damper and chillier Foxes of the East Midlands, where he enjoyed a meteoric rise, flourishing from a skinny and tricky wide player into a real force of nature. His £60 million move to Manchester City was roundly criticised at the time, but Mahrez has proved to be a brilliant piece of business, even at that price. Mahrez was born in Sarcelles, a commune roughly 10 miles north of central Paris, which has a large North African and Jewish population. Left wing, Kingsley Coman. Perhaps the most debatable inclusion in this 11, there are a number of players that I could have included on the left flank, and we are only seconds away from coming to those players. But it is Kingsley Coman who gets a starting berth from me. Coman was born in Paris to parents from Guadeloupe, and he has already won 29 caps for the reigning world champions, aged only 24. That figure would likely be significantly higher were it not for his repeated ankle injuries over the years, which at one point forced him to consider retirement. He didn't, and he went on to make 38 appearances last season, scoring the only goal as Bayern Munich beat PSG in the Champions League final. Quick, tricky and creative, Coman has scored 8 goals and made 11 assists this season, so I think he's worthy of inclusion, even ahead of some esteemed competition. Centre forward, Kylian Mbappe. I think you could make a very compelling case for us having saved the best player until last in terms of this starting 11. Mbappe was actually born within Paris' city walls, but he was raised around 7 miles away in the commune of Bondy by a Cameroonian father and an Algerian mother, meaning Mbappe could have represented 3 different national teams. Unsurprisingly, as a generational talent who was born in France, he chose to represent the national team of his birth, and the strongest side out of the 3. Aged 22 now, and already a World Cup winner with 16 goals from 42 caps to his name, Mbappe is more than capable of becoming France's all-time record caps holder and goal scorer over the next 10 years. One of the quickest footballers on the planet, and indeed, you'd have to say, this entire team is packed full of pace from the centre-backs right through to the forward line, Mbappe is creative, direct, and lethal in front of goal. Since signing for PSG on a permanent basis in 2018, he has scored 106 goals in 123 games, and that's why he is widely regarded as being one of the 2 best young forwards on the planet, along with Erling Haaland. My 7-man bench is made up of Monaco number 1, Benjamin Lecomte, former Bayern Munich and Juventus centre-back, Mehdi Benatia, Everton fullback, Luca Digne, Juventus midfielder, Adrien Rabiot, Manchester United forward, Anthony Martial, Ligue 1's joint second highest scorer this season, Wissam Ben Yedder, who is also of Monaco, and last season's third highest scorer in Ligue 1, Moussa Dembele, who is now on loan with Atletico Madrid, though it seems unlikely Diego Simeone's side will trigger the option to buy the former Celtic man on a permanent basis due to his health concerns. Honourable mentions, or some of them at least, go to the likes of Paul Bernardoni, Johan Pele, Willy Bolly, Dan Axel Zagadou, Kevin Malqui, William Saliba, Ibrahima Konate, Yashin Brahimi, Moussa Diaby, Nicolas Pepe, Alain Saint-Maximin, Jeff-René Adelaide, Sebastian Aller, Timwe Bakayoko, Jeffrey Kondogbia, Steven Nzonzi, Moussa Sissoko, Abdoulaye Doucouré, Oliver Ncham and Benjamin Mendy, among many others. Genuinely now, I could name 20, 30, maybe even 100 more established players. That is how absurd the talent pool of Paris's banlieues really are. I could actually create entire 11s, and good ones too, solely from individual communes around Paris, some of which have populations below 50,000. But they could still form teams strong enough to, at the very least, qualify for the European Championships and the World Cup, were they independent nations. Personally, I find that pretty extraordinary. In charge of my Parisian 11, I must admit, there were slightly slimmer pickings, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still a very strong candidate. That man is Rudy Garcia, born in the very small Namur commune, which was also the birthplace of Atletico Madrid's Geoffrey Kondogbia and the great French mathematician Etienne Bézout. So how would my Île-de-France 11 actually get on as an independent national team? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, but for what it's worth, I think they would comfortably rank as a top 10 national team in the world, and in terms of both their starting 11 and depth, I don't see any reason why they couldn't challenge for the major honours of the Euros and the World Cup. From a region of just over 12 million people, that is pretty impressive. But then again, Île-de-France is very similar in size, in terms of population I mean, to nearby Belgium, who also have an outstanding starting 11, perhaps just a little bit less depth, and are also capable of challenging for the biggest trophies. Anyhow, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Thank you all as ever for watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video. Apparently, it helps with the algorithm. Make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on by hitting the little notifications bell for the channel. And you can also find me on Twitter or Instagram by the usernames, or just username since it is the same. And that is at HITC Sevens on both Twitter and Instagram.